Alright, so here is part 7 to What a Female Deku with Kibutsuji Muzan. Alright, so one of you was asking me about the Crimson Blades and how can the League of Villains get multiple of them. So I'll explain it here. I'll explain it right here because I didn't really do much world building. So I'm going to do that right now, just like for a little bit. So this still does take place. So the world that this My Hero Academia takes place in is the same world as Demon Slayer. So the Scarlet Ore used to make the Nichiren blades does exist, and people have discovered it over the years. So basically for the past couple of 100 years, they've been researching it and found a way to manipulate it to get the color that they want, which is how the League of Villains had so many crimson red blades to deal with Miyu, and how Stain had his due to them being manipulated into having the color that they wanted. And this might not make much sense, but this is a what if, so it doesn't really need to make sense, and I really can come up with my own stuff. So this is just my personal take on it. If you guys want to have your own personal take, you guys are free to do that. Alright, that's enough talk. Let's pick up where we last left off. So we pick up with Miyu waking up from after the incident where she was kidnapped by All For One and fell asleep in her apartment. As she wakes up, she finds that she's been lying down on top of Yoriichi. As Miyu would immediately turn red and quickly get up, and just the same time as Yoriichi was waking up, as Yoriichi would see that Miyu was on top of him, and they would both turn a scarlet red. As Yoriichi would head back to his place and get ready for his day, due to him not really being able to bring his uniform with him to the battle. So they then end up walking to UA, with them heading into class, with Miyu being told that she needs to head to Principal Nezu's office, the same with Yoriichi. As once they head there, they find Principal Nezu, All Might, and a few of the pro heroes who are on the scene sit in the office, as they would ask Miyu and Yoriichi to take a seat. With Miyu and Yoriichi knowing where this is going, as they don't fight against it, as they would take a seat. As Principal Nezu would say, "So, would you mind explaining about what Miyu said when she nearly killed All For One?" As Miyu and Yoriichi would explain about everything that happened, including the reincarnation thing. Now, they were skeptical at first, but they do realize when Miyu shows off her abilities, they do realize that they are the same to Kibutsuji Muzan's, and her autonomy is the exact same as his. So they take it as that Miyu and Yoriichi are both reincarnations of very powerful hero from their eras. As Miyu would state that's why she chose her hero name to be Muzan because a long time ago it was the name that struck fear into the hearts of the innocent, so she would use it to strike fear into the hearts of evil. Hold on, give me a minute. As Nezu would say, I see. Well, that we weren't just here, didn't just bring you here to discuss what you said during your fight with Awful One. We are also here to discuss we're also going to be discussing about the dorm arrangements later today with your class, so it's best that you head back to your class. With Miu and Yorichi bowing towards Nezu as they would say thank you, as they would both head back to class. With Endeavor saying, I still don't know why you'd let that monster remain in this school after her nearly killing a villain. With Nezu saying that we know about what you did to your family, Endeavor, and we can release that information to the public. Would you like that? Your reputation to be scorned and knocked down from number 2? As Endeavor would then keep his mouth shut. As Nezu would say, good. Now, we will be discussing. We now continue to later that day as Aizawa then begins to discuss the dorms with the students. Now, I know the dorms happen after the training camp, but since Miu was kidnapped earlier, and All for One was put into Tartarus a lot earlier, that's why the dorms are being implemented right now. With them going around the dorms as they would get their assigned rooms. With the dorm challenge thing going on as normal, going around, then once they get to Miu's room, they find that it is quite old type Japanese, sort of like how Muzan's palace was in the anime and manga, but without it being its own interdimensional plane. As they'd be surprised by how amazing it looks, and they would also see quite a lot of books as well, with mainly about chemistry and biology and all that. As they would also see a sort of like a Now, I'm going to say, let me explain this. In this timeline of the Demon Slayer anime, Kokushibo had brought Muzan the sword from Yorichi after Yorichi's death, his first death, as Muzan would have had it put up as decoration in his palace. This is my timeline, okay? So after her reincarnation, when she was still with the Yaoyorozus, she bought it at an auction and has had it with her ever since. As they would see a blade that was sort of similar to Yorichi's one, as they would ask her about it, and Miu would cover up by saying, "Oh, it's just a replica of it. I thought it looked quite nice." As Yorichi would whisper into her ear, "Thank you for covering it up." As Miu would say, "You're welcome." As they would then move on to Yorichi's room, which is in the similar old Japanese style as Miu's, except his was filled filled with breathing techniques, and I believe Yorichi would have some yoga techniques in there as well, due to him needing to be quite flexible during combat with Miyu. So they'd find a lot of that, as they would ask why are Yorichi and Miyu's room design sort of the same. As they'd say that they're a fan of the old type of Japanese housing, as they would agree, as everyone in Class 1A except for Momo, because she's still salty about Miyu, would agree with her, as they would then end their day there, with them continuing into their final exam, as Miyu would be paired up with Yorichi to fight against All Might. As they would then enter the battlefield with Yorichi saying that All Might will probably come for them if they stay out in the open, so it's best if they stick to the shadows and the alleys. As Miyu would say, good, because the sun is beginning to irritate me a lot. As they would then move into the alleyways, as they would begin to silently move through them, while they hear the booms from All Might's jumps around the entire city, with Miyu calculating each boom, hearing for each boom and calculating All Might's general position to be south of them. As they would begin to move a bit quicker, since Miyu's estimated that All Might will be on them in about 30 seconds. With them getting near the exit gate, as All Might would say, she was right, I was right behind you too. With Miyu quickly shifting into her combat form, and Yorichi quickly accessing the see-through well to pinpoint All Might's weak spots as both of them were punched. Miyu in the jaw, and Yorichi in the stomach, as they were both sent flying, with Miyu's jaw hanging off a bit. As Miyu would get up and so reset her jaw, as she would say, sneak attacks from the #1 pro hero, that's so unlike you, All Might. As she would then dash in, as All Might would throw a punch, and so would Miyu, as they would create sort of like that same reality warping effect that All Might and All for One's punch collision did, as both of them would be sent back quite a bit, with Miyu digging her claws into the ground to prevent her from dashing any further, as Yorichi would come up behind All for One. No, not All for One, All Might, using Form 13. Now, his sword... Now, using his sword. Now, this isn't sharpened. If I remember correctly, I said that the sword wasn't sharpened, it was quite dull. So, actually, no, you know what? It is sharp, he just uses the back end of the sword so he doesn't end up cutting anybody. As he'd use Form 13, which does hit All Might, as he would be disabled a bit due to Yorichi hitting his weak points, with him telling me, let's head right now. As they would both make a mad dash for the entrance point, as All Might just gets back up and dashes toward them. And they make it out with All Might like a millisecond behind them, with Miyu and Yorichi passing their final exam. As everybody who passed, and everybody who failed. as during that night, Miyu and Yurichi and everybody who passed were celebrating them passing their exams. And those who did fail were celebrating as well because it looked quite fun. With Miyu and Yurichi calling it a night as they'd both head into their respective dorm rooms. And that is where I'm going to end this off. I do hope you guys are enjoying the series because the next part will probably be the finale. So after this one, I will do the other two what ifs that were on the that I believe were on the wheel of suggestions, which was Alduin and the other one I've forgotten. I'm sorry. Now I will see you guys next time with this finale.